having the biggest fun in our house with these secret names that we have for people. And every now and then we'd slip up and call somebody by their secret name that they didn't know they had. And so that would be one of the things that would get my mother laughing. And so once she went all the way back and got those memories, then we work up to the present, and then she could remember what happened this morning, yesterday, everything else. So it was a living case of Sankofa, going back to find out where you are, to get oriented. And I remembered that when I was coming here, because that's really what we're doing in ASCAC. You see, without memory, there's really not much you can do. In fact, without memory, you don't exist. So this is not something, this memory search is not something just so that we can memorize the 7 principles of Ma'at, that we can, the features of it, the behavioral aspects of Ma'at, that we can memorize those. That's not it. That what we're doing in memory is really coming to life, because 99.44% of who we are is what we were. And the present moment, as of this moment, what happened, what I just said, is memory already. So we really live in memory and with memory in order to be able to go forward. And so when Bill Bennett made his comment about the fact that you could eliminate crime by killing all the black babies and then add it quickly, but it would be horrible and wrong and so forth, I might have accepted that if I didn't have a good memory. But I have a great memory for the fact that Bill Bennett has a very close associate at the Heritage Foundation named Charles Murray, who wrote The Bell Curve. And I remember that the Bell Curve was sponsored by the Bradley Foundation, and that the Heritage Foundation houses Bill Bennett and Charles Murray. And Charles Murray, I remembered in the Bell Curve, chapters 21 and 22, where Murray does the same kind of thing that Bennett does, implying that most of the people with low IQs, which is us, are worthless people, which he says, and really there's no way to get rid of them, which he says. And so therefore you have to stick them all in one community so they can stay together and the rest of the world can go about its business. So if you read the Bell Curve, that's the one you should read. So I remembered that, and therefore I could put a different spin on Bill Bennett. And I remember that Bill Bennett was also the one who endorsed the book Cultural Literacy, which is now something in the public schools called Core Knowledge, which is a curriculum that is being sold that glorifies Greece and Rome. And he's also a person who serves the interests of the Heritage Foundation. The Cultural Literacy, E.T. Hirsch is the one who did that. And in fact, he served it so much that Bill Bennett said he wanted to take what was in cultural literacy and make it the new scholastic achievement test. In other words, the content of that, Greece and Rome and its heritage. In other words, some people always remember, but they want other people to always forget. So they were putting the power, as he was then the person who was in charge of the Department of Education, and which is another reason that his comments are so interesting and meaningful, because I remember he had that job and responsible for educating the children, and he wanted us to be Greeks and Romans. And I remember that all these people seem to have the same address, you know, all the ones that I'm talking about right now, and that have so much to do with influencing us, especially with the current political crew that's in place. And I remember that he wrote a book of virtues because he said we weren't. And then he got caught gambling. And so now he's not only caught gambling, but implying murder with his virtues. So I remember, and I can put a judgment on the quality of his life. And I remember also that he's at home with the wife of the current Vice President Cheney. His wife named Lynn Cheney. She used to be head of the National Endowment for Humanities, and when Ali Missouri wanted to remember Africa, to try to put his version of the history of Africa back together again, they paid for that. The National Endowment for Humanities actually gave money to Missouri to do that. And then they showed about 4 programs because they thought he was going to talk about Transatlantic, the Africans who were confused about who they were, with triple heritage. That's what they thought the message was. And he had that. But he also had an anti-colonial message. And they couldn't stand it. So Lynn Cheney went to the Congress to get Ali Missouri thing condemned, took the name of the National Endowment off of the program and stopped the series. So they never showed the whole series of the National Endowment. They say, you will not remember. So I remember not remembering. I remember that Bill Bennett also attacked me personally one day by saying some comment, I can't even remember the comment, but he said something about the fact that if you are going for African history, that's divisive, and then he added something like Hitler. But it seems that it sounds like he's the one that sounds more like Hitler, talking about genocide, or implying it. So memory has a value. You know, otherwise you might just let that slide as, you know, he just made a mistake. But how if all your friends are in the don't remember process, and even the don't exist process, then the meaning that you give to the comment is quite different. I remember Katrina. And I remember the victims of Katrina. And I remember victims going back after Katrina to try to put the pieces back together again. To go back to the old house that when you get back is nothing but a shell of its former self. And your stuff is scattered all around whatever that is that's left. And you're hoping to get one little piece of something. One little piece, if you could just have a piece, somehow that might make things a little bit better. So I remember the remembering of the victims in New Orleans. I also remember their victimhood. I remember them standing on the houses, waving, "Help me." And I remember all of them, almost 100% were African on those rooftops. And I also remember that they had faith that somebody was coming. That one of those helicopters, the news helicopters maybe, which had no problem flying, but the Army helicopters had problems flying. The cameras were there, but the military couldn't get in, the police couldn't get in to take people off those roofs. And even a helicopter company from Atlanta went down on its own initiative, ready to fly, and sat there and never got the orders to fly. They said, "We'll go regardless." And that man was interviewed on one of our local radio stations, and he told a story of how he was prevented from going. And I remember that there was a hurricane in Florida, and I remember how much money the Floridians got. In fact, some of them got money and had no damage to their houses, and large sums of money. And they were going to max the victims from New Orleans out at $2,000 per family if they would sign away their rights. I got good memories on some things. And I remember a public official saying that New Orleans was now gone, and implying that that was great, because he said, "We've been trying to do this for a long time, and finally God did it." And I remember that in New Orleans, that hundreds of people tried to cross a bridge to safety. And the sheriff shot over their head and said, "This is not New Orleans. You can't come this way. You got to go back into the flood, go back into the danger, because we don't have room for you here. And I was hoping that African people would not forget, but would remember all of these memories. You see, because there are other crises coming, and we'll be still on the roof, like many of us now, waving our hands in hopes that someone is coming. And when even one white political person's mother died because he thought they were coming too, and he broke down crying saying, nobody's coming to save us, nobody's coming. I said, well, if they're not going to save him and his mama, then all those Africans on the roof, they can forget it. And so maybe that's some kind of message that we ought to remember in order to know that we ought to remember. You see, because there are people that you know and I know who say, why are you studying all that black stuff? That was in the past. Well, there's one reason. I just got through telling you. Now, I remember other people's memories. I remember that every town I go into has a museum that preserves the memories of Europeans. Has libraries, thousands of books that preserve the memories of Europeans. We might have a book or two in there, Up from Slavery, you know, something like that. I remember that they have monuments all over town. Even some resembling African monuments that Africans don't even remember are African. And Europeans don't remember are African. And their buildings are built on African patterns, but since neither of us remember, then we don't even know how to put a value on it, but they are remembering. I remember that there are those who are forgetting, deliberately forgetting. I remember Lynn Jeffries for the state of New York trying to remember in the curriculum of inclusion. And I was a part of that effort, and you would have thought they were dropping a dirty bomb on New York. Wall Street Journal, New York Times, all these places went after Lynn, and they couldn't find anything wrong with the curriculum, so they decided to go get him for a speech that he made somewhere and pull a line out. They've been saving that for the day they needed it, and then when they needed it, then they diverted attention from the effort. And so I remembered the efforts put into not remembering. And I remember that Schlesinger wrote a book, The Disuniting of America. And I remember the first picture in there was my Lana's picture, the second picture was my picture, and the third and biggest picture in there was Lynn.